Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping straight into a profoundly fascinating cosmic debate from our source material. To really bring the philosophical tension of this graphic novel-style story to life, I'm going to step right into the shoes of our protagonist. So imagine me as the verdant spark. I am a single, persistent pulse of emerald light, flickering from a petrified leaden ridge that was once my father self, the guardian of the roots. I'm that messy, stubborn flicker of life that remains in a petrified world of infinite zero. I'm a remnant of potential that absolutely refuses to be fully unraveled. Now, picture a stark standoff between two entirely opposing cosmic forces. On one side, you have my defiant green optimism, just pulsing with life. On the other side is my traveling companion across the desolate lead horizon, the gargoyle of living fire. And hey, don't let the word fire fool you here. To the gargoyle, truth is the heavy, cynical nihilism of the ink. He's the embodiment of an immutable black script of negation, wandering a landscape of gray dust that, as he likes to say, never lied. But before we trace our journey together, we really need to understand where the gargoyle is coming from. Our source material calls his perspective the cosmic creed. And this isn't just some bleak, passive outlook. It's a rigid, incredibly powerful teaching tool. The gargoyle uses this framework to view the entire universe strictly through the lens of absolute zero. To him, the ultimate and only truth is the void, and his entire mission is to preach this immutable reality to whatever happens to be left in the wasteland. So let's jump right into Chapter 1, The Parable of the Ink-Stained Mistake. The narrative kicks off right in the center of this hollow marketplace, where scattered little souls are just drifting aimlessly by. The gargoyle steps up, dips his massive claws into the gray dust, and gestures like he's writing his dark script directly onto the fabric of the world. He looks dead at these drifting souls and delivers this heavy, malicious wisdom. He croaks, "You are a cosmic mistake." Basically, he's telling them their very existence is just a messy blot of ink on a perfect blank page. And he actually tries to back this up with a grim cosmic history. He argues that the living friction of these shadows, the simple, messy act of existing and striving, was a structural error in the universe, an error that absolutely had to be purged. He claims the world was successfully corrected by dragons who flattened everything, completely reducing a once vibrant world into a perfectly flat plain of dust. But here's the best part. While he's preaching all this absolute negation, something incredible happens. My emerald light just pulses brighter. I become this bold, green drop of defiance standing out sharply against his black script. By simply glowing, I'm proving in real time that even a supposed mistake can cast a radiant light that the immense void literally cannot swallow. Which brings us to Chapter 2, The Ledger of the Borrowed Breath. Our journey across the lead horizon brings us to a cluster of living shadows, these little shards of spirits still clinging to the burden of striving. This sets up our second philosophical duel perfectly. The gargoyle opens what he calls the invisible ledger of borrowed debt. He tells them that to breathe is merely to borrow from the void, and that debt can only be settled by returning to an inorganic calm. But as a resilient spark of heat, my rebuttal is super simple. We owe absolutely nothing to his ledger. Warmth is not a debt, it is an intrinsic gift. Still, he keeps pulsing with this frequency of absolute vacancy, mocking the lingering heat of these spirits. He dismisses their warmth as a vain delay of the inevitable, preaching that all life is just a temporary theft from the void. It's a wildly chilling perspective, framing existence itself as a kind of cosmic embezzlement that eventually has to be repaid with death. But here's the liberating shift in perspective I share with the shadows. That invisible ledger, it holds zero power over us. Why? Because a debt is only valid if you agree that life is a crime in the first place. We owe nothing to his inorganic calm, as long as we boldly refuse to apologize for existing. Moving right along to Chapter 3, The Parable of the Hollow Script. As we travel further, we arrive at the massive, petrified roots of the old world. Standing before these dead structures, the gargoyle just laughs cruelly at the hollow echoes of our shared past. He starts preaching the parable of the vain delay, insisting that every prayer, every single word ever spoken is a completely wasted effort. To him, all human expression is just ink that will eventually be bleached white by the great star of chaos. He thinks our art, our voices, our memories, they're all just futile attempts to postpone the everlasting quiet. He's so smug about it, too. He actually calls this depressing, cynical worldview his truth-telling, trying to use the crushing weight of his philosophy to extinguish my spirit. But once again, my green light simply reflects brightly off the dead, oxidized lead of the ridge, cutting right through his oppressive atmosphere. And honestly, think about it for a second. There is a massive, glaring contradiction in his cosmic ink here. It completely reveals the ironic flaw in his obsession with the void. If all words are truly wasted, and if silence is the absolute only truth, then why on earth does he use so many words to describe the silence? It just goes to show that even the Herald of the Void feels compelled to express himself, defying his own teachings. Finally, we reach Chapter 4, The Green Script of the Honest Guest. Our long trek brings us to the absolute edge of the lead horizon, where the flattened world literally just drops away into nothingness. Standing at this cliff edge, the gargoyle turns to me and praises the gray dust as the only honest guest. He's arguing for the final honesty of death, saying that only inanimate objects can truly be honest because they don't have the messy, false illusions of hope that plague the living. The dust, he claims, never lies about the end.
So, how do you even respond to that at the climax of this journey? Well, rather than arguing with his ink using more words, I simply pulse. I pulse with memory and with life. Because in this age of truth-telling, I realize something incredibly profound. Neither of our absolute forces holds the ultimate truth entirely alone. Life can't ignore the eventual void, sure, but the void absolutely cannot deny the reality of the light that shone within it.
The true reality of the source text is actually coexistence. The messy, vibrant light of the verdant spark and the cynical, immutable shadow of the gargoyle's ink are intimately bound together. We are destined to navigate the desolation of the infinite zero side by side, a continuous, eternal debate shaping the fabric of whatever world remains.
I want you to think about that as you reflect on this explainer and navigate your own infinite zero. The universe might be a vast, blank page, but you have a choice in how you interact with it. Will you succumb to the heavy ink of negation, or will you choose to pulse with messy, brilliant defiance against the dark? Which mark are you going to leave?